So I saw Justine Triet's Anatomy of a Fall, and it was very, very interesting. I've been excited for this movie for quite some time, but I've also been putting it off for quite some time. If you didn't already know, Anatomy of a Fall won the Palme d'Or, which is the top prize at the 2023 Cannes Film Festival, and since hearing that, I've been pretty excited to see the movie. However, even though I've known that it's been in theaters since mid-October, I put it off until just a couple days ago, which was actually the last day it was showing at my local AMC. So I got in right at the buzzer, and I'm glad I did, because this is probably one of the best movies of the year, a movie that is absolutely worth seeing, and more importantly, a movie that is absolutely worth talking about. And the main talking point for the movie is the question, did she do it? Which stems from the movie's inciting incident, which is the death of a man named Samuel, who is married to a woman named Sandra with a son named Daniel, who is legally blind, and kind of the truthfulness of his death is called into question by the police. Was it an accident or was he murdered? And the only suspect in that potential murder is Sandra. So the movie becomes a big investigation about her. She's being questioned by her longtime lawyer friend, as well as police and other people. And that leads me to kind of the central performance that makes the movie go, which is Sandra Hüller as Sandra, who is absolutely fantastic. She is a genuine lead actress contender, and she plays this part so well in a way that goes perfectly hand in hand with Justine Triet's directing. Triet does a great job of directing the movie so that that question of did she do it is in your head the whole time. The movie doesn't take a side. It doesn't pick the side of the law. It doesn't pick the side of the mother. It just puts it all in front of you, and you're kind of left to wonder and decide on your own if she might have done it. And Triet's directing portrays that very well, and the biggest reason it can is because of Hüller's performance. She just plays it perfectly. Everything she does, you're looking at under a magnifying glass. You're either believing it or you're not, or you're at least taking it all into consideration, and she does a great job of playing the character in a way that supports that. Backing her up, the rest of the adult cast is really great. Swann Arlaud, forgive me if I mispronounce that, plays her lawyer, as well as Samuel Theis, who plays her husband in a few crucial sequences. But I made the specification of adult actors for a reason, and that's because the two performances in the movie that resonated with me the most were a child and a dog, and that was Milo Machado Garner as Daniel and Messi as Snoop, respectively. And I know that sounds a little silly. Often child actors are called into question, and animal actors are rarely amazing, but when they are incredible. But in this movie's case, both of them are stunning. There's a sequence in the movie that made me cry, and that is largely held down by Milo, Machado Garner, and Messi, which I know sounds silly, but the animal acting in this particular scene is like literally the most impressive I've ever seen. I actually couldn't believe what I was seeing. I was reading reviews, and people were singling out the dog performance, and I was like, okay, it's probably just a really cute dog, but the dog is legitimately incredible. So that was amazing. And going back to Milo Machado Garner, he kind of becomes the emotional core of the movie. He kind of is the emotional core of the movie throughout it, and he has a lot to do without dialogue, with dialogue, and he nails it all. He's really fantastic in this movie, and that kind of leads me to talk about the back parts of the movie. The first kind of hour or so mainly takes place in this big beautiful house where police are investigating. You're seeing Sandra and Daniel try to continue with their lives, but the back 2/3 of the movie sort of become a courtroom drama, and Sandra is on trial. And I think this is sort of where my biggest disconnect or issue with the movie is, and it's not even necessarily a problem with the movie. It's just that what I learned while watching this movie is that French court is radically different from American court. It pretty much everything that is said, specifically by the prosecutor, who is played very well by Antoine Reinartz, are just things you're like, well, there's no basis, there's no evidence. And it's things that, like, if someone tried to say it in, like, an American courtroom drama, they'd be like, objection, and the judge would be like, yep, for sure. So that was pretty interesting to see. And that kind of threw me off a little. Because of the sort of neutralness of the movie, I wasn't sure if I was meant to be outraged at the prosecutor, if I was supposed to be like, yeah, get her. I didn't really know how to feel, and so that kind of threw me off a little. But despite that, the courtroom proceedings had some absolutely fantastic scenes. There's one in particular, and I don't want to give away the specifics, but it involves an audio recording, and that scene is pretty amazing. One thing I found very interesting while watching these courtroom scenes, while watching the entire movie, something that I noticed was that I had kind of gone, subconsciously, I had kind of gone into the movie with sort of a pre-decided answer to the question of, did she do it? I had a specific feeling, and the movie does a fantastic job of playing on that, and playing on that through the idea of a sort of court of public opinion. Throughout the movie and throughout the trial, you learn more and more things about Sandra's character, and some of those things support one side of the argument, and some of them support the other side, and you're taking it all in, and because of my predisposed conclusion, anything I learned that contributed to that, I was like, yep, okay, I'm right, and I noticed that while I was watching the movie, and I found that very interesting. Even though I tried to remain undecided, I just couldn't help it. So I'm very curious to see, when I rewatch this movie with a different mindset in that area, how will my viewing experience be altered? Because something I noticed is that the more I've thought about this movie, the more I like it. And I think that kind of speaks to when I first came out of the movie, I felt a little disappointed, and I wasn't quite sure why, and I think the reason why was because the movie wasn't exactly what I expected. And I'm not even sure if I could really put into words what I did expect from this movie, but the movie was not what I thought it would be, and that threw me off a little, along with the kind of confusing nature of the courtroom scenes. So that left me a little cold when I left the theater, but the more I've thought about the movie, the more I like it, because it is absolutely a movie that is worth talking about. It tackles some really interesting ideas. There's some really tense scenes, some really great filmmaking by Justine Triet, and writing by her and Arthur Harari. They have a great script here. And as I mentioned, all the performances are fantastic. Sandra Hüller, I think, should really be in the conversation for a lead actress nomination. She's really fantastic. And in a perfect world, Milo, Machado, Garner, and Messi would both be getting Oscars because they are truly fantastic. So yeah, see Anatomy of a Fall if you can. It is one of the best movies of the year. It is not only a movie that is worth seeing in the theaters, but a movie that is so worth talking about, and I can't wait to talk about it with people in my life, as well as rewatching the movie to get an even deeper opinion on it. So yeah, see Anatomy of a Fall on the biggest screen possible whenever you can. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye!